My name is Philip Decker. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Snowflake Intermediate School, and I'm going to be trying to talk about the letters lesson of the vowel R combinations, which could be one of the 6 syllable types. And the materials that I'm going to try and illustrate today are the 95% Phonics Core Program student workbook, as well as the 95% teacher edition of the 95% program, and it is designed specifically to talk about vowel R combinations. We start this lesson with doing a word chain, which we start with the word think. So I would say the word think, and then I'd talk to the kids about how to spell it. Once they spelled it orally, I'd have them write it. Once it's written, I'd tell them, how do we change think to thin? And we'd want the kids to think about losing that consonant sound, the k ending, and then how to spell it. And once again, we'd write thin under think. Next, I'd have them change thin to shin and talk to them about the sounds that are changing. Once again, we're taking off the th sound at the beginning of the word and changing it to the shush sound. And then finally, I change shin to shine. As a reminder, this is the E that makes that vowel, long E vowel sound. The next thing that we talk about in this lesson is talking about the word works. And as you can see, we're specifically talking about the vowel R sound pattern. And the students have access to this on either in their book or on a bulletin board paper or a poster that's displayed throughout the classroom. So the vowel is one vowel letter followed by the consonant R. We talk about the sound that it makes, that the R is controlling the sound. So you'll have sounds, R sounds, and or sounds. And the gesture is crossing your fingers with your middle finger over your index finger. And this would be the chart that I was talking about, where it's talking about the vowel R pattern. It's showing you your sounds, and then it also gives you a key word that illustrates that sound. And once again, we're trying to get the kids to go from a phoneme to a grapheme correspondence, and eventually to work into multisyllabic words. The next section of this is going to talk about nonsensical words. And so we'll review the vowel patterns again. So they gave us a nonsensical word, which in this case is slorm. And they'll go through the various sound patterns for this word. So this is an OR, and they're illustrating it. And you can see that they show that it's a vowel R controlled by the crossing of their fingers. We once again try to have the kids say the word, and then we'll put it in the proper category. The students are used to this by now, and so they can do this fairly quickly by themselves. We give them other words to review, like this is a closed syllable nonsensical word, and it's not a vowel R, so they'll symbolize it a closed syllable by a closed fist. And then the students will complete their own worksheet. You can see that they have several words that they will complete. These are some of the nonsensical words that we are trying to work on. We do try to review things that we have covered previously, the closed syllable, the silent E, and the vowel team syllable patterns. And we specifically work this week on vowel R patterns. The next segment is going to talk about our reading section and how it connects into. They do not have us do the reading section on this day, but throughout the week we'll do multiple readings of the same story. So we start out talking about fossils, which is what our story is going to be about, and also continue on with organisms. So our topic is fossils, and we display this fossils, and then we try to talk about this, or have the students write what they already know about fossils. Once that's done, we'll take a section of the story and start pulling out our key words. So on this example, they're talking about a paleontologist and what the job of a paleontologist might be. Some students may know what it is, some students may not. Here is a sentence starter to help the students, which is also in the workbook. And then we have students or the teacher will read a possible definition or a possible answer. A paleontologist is a scientist that studies fossils The studies of fossils helps paleontologists learn about the history of life on Earth. The next segment that we're going to work on is about morphology. And this morphology section is primarily to help the kids to decode new words. So these are the weekly words that they'll encounter on their spelling, as well as during their reading. Some have the vowel R sound, and some do not. For example, credible, in the word credible, how many syllables? We have the kids identify the vowels in order to count the number of syllables. In credible, there is a short or a closed vowel sound, and then you have your bull ending. So they're symbolizing cred by a closed fist. They're symbolizing the is sound by one finger, and then they're showing the bull sound by using a square or a box to illustrate that sounding. Okay, then we have the kids read the whole word together. So they would say credible, and then we do an example word. I'm not sure I find her story credible. The next word is more illustrative of the things that we're focusing on this week, which is a vowel R sound. So in the word preserve, how many syllables? There's 2 syllables. You can see you divide it there. You have an open syllable, and then you have your vowel R syllable, and then you read it together. And once again, you have an example sentence. Sentiment does not illustrate the vowel R concept, but it does help the students in their reading. Once again, we go through the same process of identifying vowels and the various symbols of those syllables. And here's another example for sentiment. This word, which is one of their weekly words, is variation. Variation does exemplify our vowel R pattern. Once again, we're counting syllables. We go through the syllable types and the syllable gestures to help the students to understand, in the hope that when they encounter a word, that they can decode those syllables based on those syllable types that they have been taught. Once again, we'd have the kids read the word in context in an example sentence. When we decode words, we break it into syllables. We have the kids practice. So for example, they would say credible, and then put the word together and read it all together, credible. And we'll do this for each of our 4 words, for our weekly words that they'll encounter in their reading. And then the last thing that we do on that day is we have a response to reading. We try to have the kids, once again, answer that question that they might know. Why the study of fossils is so important. And then the next day we'll continue on with the vowel R pattern. Thank you for listening to me. Sorry I've got a raspy voice. Been battling cold for a few months. Goodbye.